Welcome to the next frontier where imagination, innovation, technology, and new ideas come together to radically revolutionize your quality of life and to change the world around us for the better. Here in studio today with my dear friend and teacher, Rener Gracie. Thank you for coming in. That's
Huge
so awesome.
honor to be here, man, and great to see you. Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
As long as you're not choking me, it's a good day.
That's, yeah. He jokes like that, right? My hands never get close to his neck. I wish someday. And his beautiful wife, Eve Gracie. Do we call it Eve Torres Gracie now, or is it
Eve Torres Gracie?
Okay, but you're better known as Eve from the WWE. Yeah?
That's right.
Okay, so now you and Rener will get into, but I guess that, you know, you're the new member of the team here. So, or do we look at it as you being the new member of her team?
Right. That's crazy. So Eve and I met when she had just joined the WWE, and it was really weird. And I explained this to her a couple of years. Well, soon after we started dating, I said, man, when I was a kid, the two things I wasn't allowed to watch were rated R movies and the WWE.
So you weren't allowed to watch her.
No, literally, if my dad saw WWE on the TV when he came home from the academy and saw this stuff happening, he would turn it off and say, why are you guys watching that? That stuff is fake. We're crazy. That's Mickey Mouse business. We do the real stuff. And I'm like, all right. And then I wait till he leaves, and then I turn it on again and we watch it. So when I was a kid, I just thought it was crazy. But it was like a taboo thing. So when we finally met and dating after a certain while and got comfortable, brought her to the house for lunch, the Gracie lunch that you've been to so many times, we're sitting there and I'm like, how am I going to tell my family that she did the the profession?
Careful.
How am I going to tell my family that she did this professional wrestling stuff? And I'm like, you guys, so, you know, Eve does, you know, she works with the WWE where they do, the stuff in the ring.
This is like telling your father that your Jewish father that your fiance is not Jewish, right?
Yeah,
this is like
this literally, it was like maybe worse. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, how are they going to take it? And in my head, I had created all these possible responses of my father's, and I was ready to,
so you're doing jiu-jitsu in your head.
Already, like reversing myself, and then I say it, and my dad goes, oh, that's cool, and he like laughs it off, and that was the end of it. It was no problem, and I was like, you know how it is, when you're a kid, you make it worse. It was one of those. Anyway, she's here today. She's amazing. She was 3-time WWE Divas champion. She won't ever say that, but an amazing jiu-jitsu instructor. And
she was the only person that did that, wasn't that the...
I don't know.
Was that true? The only person that
someone
did
else done it
3-time
3 times?
champion?
I think now AJ Lee has.
So you were the first.
I was the first 3-time Divas champion.
She's so good. And her famous move, if you YouTube it, is the moonsault. So she gets on the top rope, the girl's laying down, half dead, and they're like, ah. And then Eve's on the top rope, and she does the back flip, and she's flying. And then she lands belly down on them and just boom, and then that's over. Once she hits the moonsault, fight's over.
The best part is Rener would start having dreams, I think, about
you.
No, about him getting in the ring with like some of the other wrestlers. So he always acted like, WWE, that's what Eve does. But I think he secretly and plus I found videos from when he's like 6 years old, him and Hollick
doing WWE stuff.
WWF champion, Rener Gracie, like cutting promos right into the camera.
No, these don't get out in the public. I've seen the other videos. I haven't seen these videos.
Bro. These can't go public. My grandfather would roll over in his grave if he saw me doing that fake stuff. But literally, we'd be rolling. But the craziest part was, me and Hollick have this epic footage of a session where we're like grappling all crazy. Now in our heads, we're doing fake wrestling, and you can hear it when you know what we're talking about. But my dad's the one filming it, and he didn't make the connection. He just thought his Gracie boys are grappling and they're doing jiu-jitsu, so let the kids beat each other up. He's like, yeah, go Rener, go Hollick, boom, 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 kill each other, go, go, go. It's Gracie household standard procedure. Versus breaking it up, you encourage the fight. And here we are doing like these crazy body slams that are no jiu-jitsu involved. It was crazy, man. She found that footage.
Like,
I couldn't
pile
believe it.
driver.
Now, just a little background for everybody, because so the Gracie family, largest sports family in history.
Crazy.
Yeah, crazy. Elio Gracie, Grandmaster Elio Gracie, your grandfather created Gracie Jiu Jitsu that revolutionized the world with the Ultimate Fighting Championship. That was your father's brainchild. Your father and Art Davie, right? The two of them? Yeah. So back in 1993, they did the Ultimate Fighting Championship where your Uncle Hoist went in and beat multiple people in one night.
Fought the giants there. And, when I explain it to people in terms of the origin of jiu-jitsu, my grandfather was a very small guy, as you know. Learned Japanese techniques, but he wasn't strong enough to do them. And that's what forced him to modify and make it into the Gracie or Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And there was only one way to prove the effectiveness of a martial art, and that's to fight other martial artists. You know, you can speculate all you want, as people have done for so many generations. What would happen if a karate guy fought a judo guy, or a wrestler fought a boxer? There's all the speculation, you know, around the fireplace. And, you know, in 1993, after, you know, 80 years of our family doing this, my dad created the UFC to say, let's put that myth to rest and let's see what actually works. Let these guys battle it out. No judge. People don't know. Yeah. Kids who are UFC fans today,
they don't know the real deal.
They don't know. Yeah. Well, they don't remember. Some kids weren't even born who are MMA fighters today.
Who are spectacular. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been 20 plus years. So if you're 19, 20, 21, you weren't even around when this was happening. So the first UFCs, no time limits, no judges, no rules other than you can't eye gouge, bite, or groin strike. And even groin strike was allowed for a while. No, groin strike was allowed.
Yeah, groin strike.
No gloves. That's the hugest difference. And it's a real street fight, basically, you know, in an octagon for people to watch. And truth prevailed. And, you know, Royce went in there, and you always thought he was going to get beat up.
Yeah, you remember, was the cool part.
You look at this little skinny Brazilian and you're like, oh, get the guy out of there, man. He's like dressed up in his pretty white pajamas and he's going to get beat up by this freaking pharmaceutical grade superhero. And you're like, no. And then he goes in there and everyone is shocked. 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 50 seconds. Without throwing punches, he's just like an anaconda, locks him up, and people are giving up. And then it took 2 or 3 UFCs for people to finally be like, all right, watch the little skinny guy. Yeah. He's going to get him. And then people started betting on them. And, you know, and before you know it, everyone.
So you proved what you really proved beyond anything. And what you proved was that the smaller guy could beat the bigger guy with technique. And you go and you train. The dream that martial arts was always framed around was that, you know, you can protect yourself or you can defend yourself. Which, you know, a lot of people don't. If you're not a martial artist, you may not get that. But from you've got now, and we'll get into it in a little bit, but you've got your women's empowerment program that you teach to empower women to be safe. You've got your bully-proof program that's really relevant in terms of bullying in schools right now, which is or outside of schools, which is really huge. You've got a lot of ways that I look at you guys as being in the business of transformation. Right. You transform people's lives by empowering them, and they're more confident, they gain skills. I know that's what it's done for me. And it's the best martial arts education that, you know, I've ever had. I had a black belt when I was 21, but, you know, I got my brown belt from you, your dad, and Huron and Alex. It was a couple of years ago. I'm in trouble because I haven't been on the mat. I got an email from your dad last night saying, I did. But
I'll do your podcast if you come back to class.
Yeah. So, but it's amazing what you do in terms of transforming people's lives. And it all goes back, and you can trace it to the roots of when Royce demonstrated for the world that the smaller person could beat the bigger person. So if you're listening right now and you're going, well, shoot, this is all about fighting, and I'm not a fighter, I'm not into that, realize that it's not what it's all about. And that's never been what it's been all about for you guys either, I know, because you know, your emphasis over the sports, over everything else has always been self-defense, hasn't it?
100%. And Eve can talk a little bit about some of these benefits way beyond fighting, because she's not picking any fights and she's been in it now for almost 7 years.
So you don't pick fights?
I don't pick fights. Not anymore.
I watched you because I went and I looked at a couple of YouTube videos to prepare here. And I'm like, you looked like you were picking some fights.
I was. In my WWE days, I was definitely picking some fights.
So it's over. So you've had a life transition.
Yes, of course.
You let go of the evil.
I let it go. I moved on.
Now, Eve, you've also, just so everybody knows a little more background, you've done a couple of films. You did Scorpion King 4?
Yes. Scorpion King, where I had actually a pretty epic cage fight in the movie.
Really?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to film, and it turned out great. I'm really happy with it. It's a pretty fun movie. So.
Where was that? Was that filmed in the U.S.?
No, it's filmed in Romania.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay, very cool. Did you get to go to Romania?
Unbelievable. Heather, I didn't know. I didn't go. You were out there for what? A couple weeks at least?
10 days, yeah.
So I didn't go, but I got to see the fight scene, and without question.
And also Uncle Royce is in the movie, too.
Royce is in the movie. Big Country, cool. Roy Nelson's in the movie.
Oh, wow.
Antonio Bigfoot Silva. They got a bunch of MMA fighters, but Eve has what I consider to be the dopest, the best female fight scene in movie history.
Of course, he has to say that.
That's without swords. Now you have some Kill Bill. You know what I'm saying? We have some Kill Bill swords
Those are
slashing
some cool
75
fights,
people. Different fight between two women, straight up.
Just
it's
us.
the most realistic.
Yeah.
It's the dopest fight scene I've ever seen.
And this is in Scorpion King 4. That's is it
It's
going straight
now available, right?
It's now available on Blu-ray, DVD,
and iTunes, correct?
Yeah,
and
so
iTunes.
direct download. Yeah, unbelievable. So she did that, and
then a Jackie Chan movie.
Yes, I just got back from filming that in China and Hong Kong.
How was that?
It was incredible. It was everything I dreamed it would be, honestly. Jackie Chan's somebody that I admired, growing up, and me and my mom would watch his movies. We just loved him. We absolutely loved him. So as somebody who's into martial arts and who's also into action and in the film world, it's like a dream come true to work with Jackie. And
right. I can
he was
just
awesome.
imagine.
Yeah.
And who else did you said there were some other people in there? Oh, Johnny Knoxville, you said, was in that too.
Yes, yeah. So it's Jackie Chan, Johnny Knoxville are the two main roles. And
That's funny. That's got to be a good combination.
It's a great combination.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be,
That's
the mix of
imagine
action
that.
and
That's
comedy.
Jackass meets Jackie Chan.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty
so
fun.
they'll have to wait until when? When is that one coming out?
I don't know the release date yet. It should be sometime this year.
Okay, and that's coming to the theaters?
It should be,
Theatrical
yes.
release?
Yeah.
Fantastic. It's always so hard to say with movies, right?
Yeah.
Because it's
it's going to
be
be distributed both in China and in the U.S.
Very cool, very cool. Now, and I also read someplace that you can do a Rubik's Cube in under 5 minutes.
I can.
Is this true?
That is true. How do you think I got impressed tenor in the beginning of
Oh,
our relationship?
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Big time. Yeah, well, that's what immediately
I
when
stopped
she
at
did
three
that,
stores on the way
He
here.
showed me magic tricks, and I
stopped
tried
at
to
3
teach him the
stores on the
Rubik's
way
Cube.
here trying to find one because I wanted to see this.
I'm glad you didn't, because I'm a little out of practice. So I need to get,
No,
You
for
would've been
sure.
tested.
That plus, yeah.
it's my party trick.
Tougher than the fight in the Scorpion King.
Yeah, truthfully.
So now you guys, you just went to the Amazon for something.
Crazy.
did.
Yeah. So I've always wanted to go. We're families from Brazil, for those who don't know, but my father,
Rener and Gracie.
yes, has been to the Amazon. There's a very special jungle lodge there called Ariaú Towers. And essentially it's situated, an hour, from the city of Manaus, where it's up on a river. There's no road to this jungle lodge. It's just boat up the river. And we went, we were in Brazil during the holiday season right now. Eve met me there after Hong Kong, and we went to the freaking Amazon, man. It was life-changing. We
I
literally...
feel like Rener found his Brazilian soul
Really? His
there.
roots?
Yeah,
I
his
should've been
roots.
there.
I feel like he wanted to just move there and
It was
figure
so
out life.
amazing.
Really?
It was
Yeah, you're literally out in the middle of
get it.
nowhere, and all kinds of adventures from, fishing for piranhas, swimming with pink freshwater river dolphins.
I've told people about that, but nobody believes me that there's pink dolphins.
Yeah.
Oh, they're beautiful.
And they're
know. They
freshwater.
don't believe you.
Unbelievable.
And they do they dance on their tails or something?
Well, they do come out of the water for fish. So we went to this adventure to go swim with them. And we were thinking there was going to be an enclosure where they had some captive ones, like you've seen in
Right.
other,
Yeah,
dolphin diving experiences where they're
SeaWorld.
trapped. SeaWorld
Right.
type thing. But they would get there, and all you see is a barge floating, like a kind of a little house shed floating in the middle of the Amazon River. And we're there, and we get on this little thing, and they're like, all right, step down onto the little plank there. And the plank is about 4 feet underwater, and you walk out on this thing, and he starts slapping the water with some fish. And all of a sudden, 5, 6, 7 pink dolphins just show up from the river.
Wow.
Yeah,
They're
these are
just
wild
wild.
dolphins.
Amazing.
They're not.
And they come get it from the
trained.
hands, and they eat it right there, and they fight against each other to see who's going to get the fish. And these are 200-300 pound dolphins right there interacting with you, and you're petting them. It's ridiculous.
That's so cool.
Unreal.
So, now, you were teaching down there? Is that what you were doing? You had a...
Well, Lyoto Machida, former UFC light heavyweight champion and current middleweight contender, is a student of the Gracie Academy, and he was there for a fight in Sao Paulo. So when I knew I was going to be coaching Lyoto in Sao Paulo, Eve was going to be in Hong Kong. We said, hey, we'll meet there for the fight. And then since we're in Brazil, let's go to the Amazon. Best decision we ever made. And it was everything we could have imagined.
Okay, we got to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to talk more about that, about Lyoto, and you've been coaching other fighters as well behind the scenes. And we're also going to be going into the whole Gracie revolution. What's happened, because you've really taken things in a big direction together now as well. It's kind of cool to see the generations. So we'll take a break. We'll be right back. All right. So just before we went to break, we were talking about you went to go coach Lyoto. You've been coaching Lyoto Machida for a while.
Yeah, 2 to 3 years now. Yeah. It's been amazing.
That's amazing. And so he was the light heavyweight champion of the UFC?
He won the title at 205, and then he, realized that, he could easily make 185. So he started cutting weight, and he's done great, and now he's killing it.
Now, and see, this is something, and you've been coaching, it's Ronda Rousey, right?
As well, correct.
Yeah, behind the scenes. So I'll turn on the TV if I'm watching the UFC, and I'll see you in the corner back there, and the Gracies that always come out before the Gracie.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's been really fun, and for people who don't understand, in the beginning it was jiu-jitsu versus karate versus taekwondo. You had one martial art, and you fought another one, and we saw what happened. And jiu-jitsu prevailed. And now what you have is people who've been training other martial arts for their entire lives who learn the mix of arts, right? So Ronda, for example, is a judo Olympian and Olympic, I think, silver or bronze medalist. And she now learns boxing and jiu-jitsu to round up her skills and compete in the UFC. Lyoto is a karate master, 3 generations karate. This guy's unbelievable, but learns wrestling and jiu-jitsu to add up to his karate skills. So every fighter essentially is learning, at least three different arts to complete their skills. And being that we focus entirely on the jiu-jitsu element, these professionals are finding it more and more. They're coming to us to sharpen their jiu-jitsu swords. And we have a blast doing it. It takes up a lot of time and energy, but it's very rewarding to go in there. And it's almost like, you give them all of your tricks and techniques, and then it's almost like playing a video game, and they're the actual character, and you're like coaching them, and you're giving them your knowledge, and you invest as much as you can, and then some coach on the other side is coaching the other video game player, and it's
that's kind of cool.
That's really great. Video games with humans,
I never thought about it that way.
No, neither had I. That's video game with humans. But the game can't be won the same way it used to be won, because now they've added the gloves, they've added the time limits, they stand people up. So the pure game just doesn't exist anymore, at least in the world of the competition. So they need all the skills, I guess, across the spectrum.
Yeah.
If they're going to switch it up. And
it really, the rules affect everything.
Everything.
Right? Because when you add time limits and you put on these little gloves and you add judges who are not professional fighters, who will be the determining factor in deciding who wins, you don't fight your opponent anymore. You perform for the judges.
Right.
And they look at your performance and decide. And, there's a very strict, if you're on top of the fight, you're automatically winning.
Right.
In jiu-jitsu, you could be on top of me for 15 minutes and I'll still choke you with my legs. So I'm winning.
I know.
Not you. You choke me, bro. I'm talking about the average Joe. So, and what's crazy is that's the reality of the situation. And, that change into a judge-based, judge involvement is one of the reasons why my father sold the UFC years ago, because he knew that when you put time limits and you put judges, you strip the fight from its raw purity that would make it more of a street fight reality, demonstration.
And when when Rener talks about the street fight, and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but I heard you chatting for years and years and years. But to bring it home for you as a listener, what we're really looking at is, how do you defend yourself? Because it's not like we're walking around looking for fights. It's like, how do you? And I know you, Eve, you've come over and you're a spokesperson for the women's empowerment, and you're teaching that together, aren't you?
Yes, correct.
So what's that all about?
Yeah, so just to kind of mention what you said, when you're talking about street fight, what he basically means is any encounter with an opponent when there's no rules and no one stopping time, right?
Right.
So that is like a real life situation. So for women, we're not necessarily walking around, bumping chests and picking fights, but we do know that statistics say that 1 in 4 women will be sexually assaulted in her lifetime, and that's a huge number. And it's really unfortunate to to even consider, especially when think about all the women in your life. And
we all know people who have had that happen already.
Right.
I mean, it's not like. It's not like it's 1 in 4 and we're expecting it. We already know the people in our life who have had that happen.
Correct. Correct. So now when we're talking about jiu-jitsu and its application to women, it's extremely important because, again, jiu-jitsu is known for enabling a smaller person to defend against a larger opponent. And for women, that has to be the case. Because I know for 100% certainty that if I'm ever going to be attacked especially by a man, he's going to be bigger, heavier, and stronger than I am.
Right.
So to think that I can, it doesn't matter how much I'm in the gym, how much I'm, working on my strength or my flexibility or my fitness, he will
power you.
He will, he will have more power than I will. And I knew that growing up with a brother, it's like, it just doesn't matter. He can always hold me down. He's always going to be stronger than me. That's just one of the unfortunate parts about being a woman. But for me, training jiu-jitsu was the first time where I really felt like it kind of evens the playing field. And it's really amazing. I mean, to see that with just timing and technique and just, it's almost like cheating, because I remember the first time I learned these, simple techniques, I remember thinking like, I never would have thought of this, which means he would never think of this. And so applying those techniques to somebody, it really is, that's the best way I can explain it. It's like cheating to win a fight, and that's what we have to do in order to survive.
Yeah, because you got all these. One of the things that I know, like I used to see, there was like a black belt in karate, fifth degree black belt, a woman who's assaulted and she wound up dead. For me, the karate skills would be, and no disrespect to any art out there, but would be far less effective than what you guys are doing with the women's empowerment, because it's all based on leverage, it's all based on timing, it's all, tricking.
Well, it's hard, because I think all self-defense it's important for women to learn any form of self-defense. I think just the idea of fighting back is the first battle that we have to face. Because there are some women who actually may not feel like they would instinctively fight back. So even just fighting back to begin with that's a start. But we know that if things go to the ground, or if things, which we can expect that to happen, again, if someone's much stronger than we are, and if they get a hold of us, and if we're not able to escape, and it gets to a worst case scenario, then we have to know what to do with somebody much bigger and stronger that's on top of us. And unfortunately, some of the other striking arts don't necessarily address those threats.
Right, because how are you going to punch a guy? I've been punched in the face by a girl before, and while it may bother, and I don't mean to sound like a tough guy.
Yeah.
I mean, but the way it may bother, it's not going to stop you.
It will not stop them, right? So you have to, there's only one way to actually win or to defeat somebody much stronger than you, and it can't be with strikes or punches.
Or get away.
Unfortunately. Yes, exactly, or get away. And really, when it comes to women's self-defense and women, our program, that's the goal. The goal is to just get home safe. It's not to beat the guy up. However, if that's what it takes, then there's obviously that option, but really it's just get home safe. And the other problem that, with some of the striking and more aggressive arts is that we know that 78% of sexual assaults are actually committed by people that we know.
Right. So
that means it could be your coworkers, your boss, your family, or an acquaintance, or if you're in college, a fellow student. And unfortunately, for women, if they are attacked by somebody that they know, it may not be their first instinct to gouge their eyes out or to palm strike them in the face.
Take it to the extreme, right?
Right, to take it to the extreme. So now, if that's your only option, is these extremely aggressive tactics, and you don't feel like you can necessarily, not that it would be wrong to, you always have the right to defend yourself, but there are some women, including myself, that for some situations you may feel limited as to the resources you can.
It's like a boundary that you're questioning whether you want to pass.
And then you do nothing as a result.
Right.
So you're in limbo. If the only option is extreme violence, you probably do nothing in that case.
Right.
Where with jiu-jitsu, as you know, gentility is one of the amazing benefits.
There's ways to
control.
neutralize an attack without escalating it. And that's a really important thing for women to understand, that you can neutralize. If a man just grabs you by your wrist, and is just disrespecting you or kind of invading your space, there's a way for you to kind of make a statement to neutralize it and regain your kind of your boundaries in your space without having to start a full-on fight, and punch him in the face or kick him in the groin, and not that that's wrong, but sometimes we just like having more options.
Absolutely. Well, and emotions get heightened and there's tension, and I know that must be something that, Henry, that happens is people go into this freeze mode where it's like, well, what do I do? And if I got to gouge this person's eyes out or nothing, that goes into that space of no action whatsoever.
Correct. Big time, yeah. And I'm all about giving value, and there are listeners out there right now who are thinking, all this makes sense, and we can't show a technique right now, through the radio, but what we can do is explain that for us, self-defense is all about boundary setting. Because let's just paint a picture, which is so common. The woman is at a gas station pump, late. Store clerk is in there on the other side, can't even see him. No other cars pumping gas. The guy starts stumbling over from the bus stop in your direction. This is a situation.
Right, and you don't know what it is.
You have no idea. Could be a guy who needs $1 to call his mom. Could be a drunk guy who just heading in the wrong direction. Could be the rapist you saw on the news last week. We don't know.
Yeah.
We have a situation now. And for us, the number one thing we try to instill in our students is this ability to establish boundaries as early as possible. So as the guy is walking in this direction, if you look at him and say, "Excuse me, sir, how can I help you?" Instead of what most women do, which is, oh my God, he's coming. Look away, look away. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's such a common thing.
just
Don't make
the
eye
idea
contact, ignore him.
hoping that if you ignore him, he'll just kind of mind his,
Right.
Yes, so women mostly don't do
So they go into a victim mode
Yeah, well, they
rather
go into,
than,
I'm not going to make it worse. I don't want to look at him. I don't want to confront this guy.
and the fear attracts.
And I think that inability or lack of ability to assert themselves to someone comes from some deep idea that if you assert yourself, you're instigating something.
Right.
Which may be true again between two guys who are puffing up in a bar and trying to impress their girlfriends and acting tough. You look at me, I look at you, and it gets worse. But for a woman who is by herself at a gas station, if she looks at a normal, sane, respectful human being who's walking towards her and she says, "Excuse me, sir, can I help you?" And he feels the aggressive tone, he feels the assertiveness from her, that normal guy is not going to turn into a rapist because of her assertiveness and boundary setting. But if that is a predator, this is the key now.
Right.
If it is a predator, a bad person with bad intentions, when will you know? As soon as he takes one more step. But the problem is you won't know unless you establish the boundary. And predators are very predatorial by their very definition, which means he wants to get as close as possible without being detected or asserted against, so that when the resistance comes, he's as close to victory as he can be. This is a huge deal, and this is something that all of the listeners right now can take into their minds. And think about it. Next time you see, especially the women, you see a creepy guy walking towards you on the sidewalk, nobody else around, and it doesn't feel right, you have the right to cross the street. As soon as you cross the street, if he takes one step across the street in your direction, what do you now know?
He's coming.
Yes, that he has bad intentions. And then the question is, when would you like to know what his intentions really are?
As soon as possible.
Yes. But you won't know unless you establish a boundary. So what's the bottom line? Boundary setting is self-defense. But what's the problem? People will not establish boundaries that they don't feel capable of enforcing. And therein lies Gracie Jiu Jitsu. We teach people self-defense so they never have to use it. The problem is you have to believe that if he were to cross the line and attack you, you have resources to defend yourself. Because if you don't believe that, you're scared to even create a line.
Right.
Out of fear of what might happen if he crosses it and you don't have the answer.
Yeah.
That's jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. And now, and here's the brilliance of what you guys are doing. I see you solve problems. You solve a problem of confidence in guys like you and I. You solve a problem of confidence. And it's not just confidence. It's not false confidence. We could have bravado and false confidence, but it's based on the reality of the tool set that we have. It's based on a reality-based system that's been proven time and time and time and time again. I mean, you instruct the police forces, you instruct the U.S. military, so you got the real deal in terms of how do you defend yourself from an empty-handed standpoint and come out alive while inflicting as little as possible damage, should you choose to, on somebody, on a bad guy.
Right.
Right. So you solve the problem for men, you solve the problem for women, and you also solve the problem for children as well. You guys have another program that you do, which is bully proof.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's, that one, simply put, we're very lucky to come into the Gracie family and have uncles, grandfathers, fathers, who are all our superheroes in our family. So we grew up thinking we were like, yeah, we can take on anybody. And we had that confidence growing up.
Yeah.
But then we thought, man, what about the other kids who don't have my father, my uncles, my grandfather as their idols and direct ancestors to teach them these skills? Let's create a program that any parent can use at home to raise their child the way I was raised. with jiu-jitsu, with the assertiveness, with the bully prevention training that we got from 4 years old all the way to 14, which truly shaped us. And we created Gracie Bully Proof. It's now in tens of thousands of homes around the country, around the world. And the feedback has been ridiculous. Literally, from the time the kid is 3, 4 years old, how to play jiu-jitsu all the way until, how to walk up to the bully, stand with your chest open, look him in the eye without blinking, and tell them, don't ever do that again.
Yeah.
And if they step forward, you push them back and you get your hands up and be ready.
Yeah. And we're going to come back and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. We got to take a break. All right. So, a couple of things. First of all, Rener, I know you've always, over the years that we've done different types of programs, you've come into our seminars, your family's come into the seminars and taught at the programs, which I think, by the way, from a transformational perspective, you guys are phenomenal. I don't know of any other way to gain the level of confidence that you can get as a human being in knowing that you can handle yourself than to coming into the courses and stuff that you guys do. And I'm just such a big fan of it. But over the years, you've let people come in for a free trial of the women's empowerment class. You've let people come in for a free trial of the other classes that you have as well. So you have those things at the Academy in Torrance. What can people do?
Yeah, sure. So we have the Gracie Academy is headquartered here in Torrance in Southern California. We've been here since 1989 now. What is that? 20 plus years, 25 years. And now we are also certifying schools around the world to teach our particular programs, Women Empowered, Gracie Bully Proof. We have over 100 certified training centers, accredited schools that we have personally certified to teach these programs. And no matter which school you go to, Singapore, South Africa, all across the U.S., we have over 80 schools in the U.S. You can go to any one of them and try out any of the programs for 10 days, 100% free. And the thought process is simple. Once you have 10 days of jiu-jitsu, you're hooked, because
it's like Pringles. You can't eat just one of them.
Yeah, but it's not, the hook and the addiction, it sounds kind of like a negative thing, right? Like you get addicted. And I don't like saying you're hooked like it's a negative thing, but the reality is this. What are they getting hooked on? You come in for your first class. Yeah. We present to you an impossible scenario. We present to you a threat scenario. What would you do in this situation? And we might get on top of you in like a hold. And we ask you how you would get out. And you conclude in a matter of 30 seconds of trying to get out unsuccessfully that you are not going to get your way out of that position.
And not only that, you're exhausted and you've burnt
you're exhausted.
Everything's gone.
And you're there at that point, and now you're thinking, man, if my life depended on it, I will not be able to escape that position. You conclude that. And then we take 1 minute to show you a technique that we've been using for 85 years, and you escape easily and repeatedly with 1/10 the energy you wasted guessing your way out. Once you see that we solve one impossibility that easily, that effectively, your mind starts moving and you say, wow, if that only took 5 minutes to learn that, imagine if I trained for 5 classes, an hour each. Imagine if I did 5 weeks, 5 months. Unbelievable. So we're in the business of solving impossible problems.
The Rubik's Cube in 5 minutes.
Literally, each one. And that's why when she did her first class, and I got on top of her and I said, Eve, how would you get out if your life depended on it? And she couldn't get out.
I said, I don't really want to get out. Fine, right here.
Whatever. This I don't know what she was thinking, but I know one thing. Whatever happened, she enjoyed the first class and she signed up for jiu-jitsu and for Rener for the rest of her life.
Rener, I think you enjoyed the first class too. I don't want to show her how to get out.
So and anyways, from the addiction perspective, literally people work 9 to 5, come to the Gracie Academy, and they're showing up eager and excited for 2 reasons. Number one, while you're on the green mat, nothing else enters your mind. It literally is, you know this more than anyone, it's the best vacation from everyday life you can have when you're there and you're immersed in techniques and jiu-jitsu.
Active meditation.
Active meditation, you're sweating, you're working out, you're just mentally stimulated. That's one. Number two is every day you come to class, we solve a new problem. And there's really no area of your life where you get measurably better every single day. Most skills, get surfing, you go from knowing nothing for 6 months to finally getting up and riding a wave, and then you're all right for 6 more months, and then you can finally do one trick, not jiu-jitsu. Every single day, you're safer than the day before, and that's addicting.
That's amazing. Yeah, it really is.
And the kids come back because they're just having the best time of their life. Like they've really mastered, their bully Bully-Proof program has really mastered the art of making jiu-jitsu into a game and making it fun while still building confidence in kids. Because if they feel like, it's like too much of, like
bow to
too
your
much
master.
Yes,
Right.
bow to
With
your
the bamboo
master.
stick. Can't do that stuff.
I did that when I was a kid. We were afraid
Yeah,
not
you
to go to
don't want
class.
your kids to be
you go.
afraid to come to class. You
Right.
want them to have fun, and you want them to enjoy it. You want them to always, leave wanting more and wanting to come back, because we know the most important thing is that they come back.
Right.
The most
Long
important
version,
thing
long
is
term.
that they enjoy their time, and day by day they're going to learn a little more and a little more, and they're teaching them confidence and teaching them techniques which are kind of hidden in a fun game.
That's
just wonderful.
that's something that really has stood out to me and impressed me about the family and how you've taught, because I know that was the way you were taught.
100%.
As a game in a playful way, and you even teach your adult students to do that. But that's impressive. I've taught seminars all over the world, thousands and thousands of people, and people always say, well, can you use different, we do psychological pop psychology techniques and stuff, but people say, can you use this with kids, or how do you teach to kids? And I've never seen better teachers with kids than y'all.
Well, it helps. Yeah, that's thank you. And I didn't make any of this stuff up, but when you're in a family where my dad has 10 kids, his dad has 9 kids.
You guys are active people.
Carlos has 21
When did
kids.
they have time for jiu-jitsu?
Good question, bro. They didn't have TVs in their houses. So Elio had 9 kids. Carlos had 21 kids. So there were enough kids to test these methods on, in addition to the Gracie diet. But yeah, man, we didn't make this stuff up. And that really was the thought process, was if you make it a game and if you make it fun, the kid will actually want to do it. But there comes a point around 13 or 14 years old where the game is gone, and you start to realize as a young man or woman that, hey, these skills can serve me for the rest of my life. I want to know this. And it really, for me, that day happened when I tapped out, when I submitted a grown man who was 30 plus years old, and I was 14. I was like, man, I'm in this for life.
This is cool.
This is dope. I'm a kid beating up adults, like I'm never going to stop this. And I haven't. And now I just, it's amazing.
The playfulness is amazing. I remember going in with your father, and he brought in your younger brother who was like 4 years old when I was a purple belt, and he's like, okay, now Chris, wrestle with the boy. Now Chris, don't hurt the boy. I'm like, okay,
yeah, to teach you how to relax. That was the idea.
Yeah.
To teach you to roll gently and Put it this way: be glad that you were nice to that little boy, because one day my younger brother will grow up.
I'm
and
sure
he'll
if
be
I went in
snapping
there.
back. And we always remember. I remember all the people who were aggressive with me when I was 9, 10, 11 years old, and I paid them back a long time ago. And only the guys who were nice to me, I've now reciprocated that gentility.
That's funny. I was wrestling one time with your Uncle Hoist, and he's like, "Oh, Chris, you're so tough, oh, Chris," and he's spinning me around. He's, "Chris, you're so strong, oh, Chris, oh, fight harder, Chris, fight harder." I'm wrestling, and then I accidentally hit him like in the face. I went, "Oh," and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." He's like, "Oh, no problem." Then he starts wrestling some more. He's like, slaps me. "Oh, sorry, Chris." Hits me over there. "Sorry, Chris, so sorry."
No, bro. Save those stories. We don't want those stories public, man. Listen, we'll edit that part out of the whole podcast. The public story is when you guys come to the Gracie Academy, and this is the reality, though.
Yes.
The reality is when you come to the Gracie Academy, we pride ourselves in being the academy where anyone who is not welcome, safe, comfortable, or encouraged at another martial arts institution is welcome with us. We literally pride ourselves in the blind student, the handicapped student of any kind, the small, the weak, the unathletic, because we know the skills we have are 100% applicable for the person who thinks they're too old, too out of shape, too this, too that. No matter what you think you can do, we can't do, jiu-jitsu is for you. It's the art. It's everyone's art. And that's why my grandfather is a testament to this. You saw him,
absolutely,
95 years old.
I wrestled with
still
him.
doing jiu-jitsu
Wow.
till the end.
Lucky you.
95. And if you're anything under 90, you have no excuse not to be training jiu-jitsu with us and learning some self-defense, basic strategies of self-defense anyone can benefit from.
And this is the magic of jiu-jitsu. But I do want to focus a little bit on the problem of bullying right now, because you know it very well, both of you. So what's the problem that we're facing right now?
Right. Well, bullying has always been a prevalent. It's always existed. The difference is now, instead of you going home and it being over until the next day, you go home onto your Facebook page to find out that everyone is isolating you and making fun of you for the incident that you got bullied at today at school. Yeah. So literally, it just amplifies this. It literally, the cyberbullying has really just magnified.
I've had that happen as an adult.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
For sure.
Anyone who's in the spotlight successful is going to have people firing at them naturally.
Right. Through social media,
and
through
the best
text
advice,
messages even. I mean,
the best advice my dad ever gave me, he said, Rener, if you do anything amazing, half are going to love you. Half are going to try to tear you apart.
Right.
And once he said that, I said, okay, that's fine. I'm doing pretty good then. Like, half people hate me means I'm being successful. It's okay. And trust me, we've got our fair share of that.
Yeah.
But regarding the kids and bullying, whether it's cyberbullying, whether it's, no matter what type of bullying it is, it all boils down to, for the child, believing that, number one, they can assert themselves to this threat. And number two, the way I tell it to parents is this: if your child's only source of confidence is from their peers, then their peers are also the ones in control of taking away their confidence and their strength. So the jiu-jitsu for us was such a constant influx, a deposit from my father of power, of strength, mental strength, and courage and confidence for me, that when I went to school and kids, for sure they tried to tear that away, they can't, because they didn't deposit it. My father did. The problem is, if you trust the school and other peers to do that, and you don't have a confidence deposit method from home that can't be messed with, then you can naturally expect your children to be like this, depending on how their friends are treating them. So our advice is 100% for parents, find a way. Now, the funny part is, it doesn't necessarily have to be self-defense. There has to be something, though, that you're interacting on a very real basis with your child that makes your child believe that they're worth defending and that they're important, they're special. No matter what anyone says, they can call them any name or say they're bad at anything. Your child goes home knowing that they're an amazing painter, or they're an amazing, gardener, where they plant seeds and they can nurture a plant. Whatever it is, baseball player, they have to believe that they're amazing at something, and that's up to the parent. Jiu-jitsu was our method. And it also happens to have a real life application from a self-defense perspective.
I think there's something more to it, though. Also, I hear what you're saying in terms of they have to be amazing at something, but because bullying is so prevalent. I mean, you've gone in and helped people specifically. You've done interventions, for lack of a better word. Look, can you share one?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a mom of a kid in Colorado who called, and a kid named Martin. And the story is public, so it's actually been published on Yahoo.com. It was a big story.
Name?
Yeah. So the mom calls and she says, Rener, I've tried everything. My kid's getting made fun of for the last 6 years. He's ready to drop out of school. He's completely done. It's a done situation. What can you do? Can you help him? And she was in tears on the phone. It was a very desperate situation. We heard you have the Bully Proof program. Can you help him? I said, how'd you hear about it? She said, a karate instructor told me about your program because we tried and it didn't work through karate.
Right.
And I said, well, listen, ma'am, I haven't met your son. So to be honest, I can't promise anything, but I can tell you this. If we can't help him, no one can. Okay, I'll bring him out. They flew from Colorado.
I believe that to be so. Yeah.
The family flew him out. They spent 1 week. I trained with the kid for 1 week, morning and night, every single day. The first week he came in, he wouldn't even look at you. I knew, as soon as he walked in the door, I knew who he was because he wouldn't look up. By the end of the week, I interviewed the kid. I said, so Gordon, what's the most important thing when you go home? He says, Rener, manage the distance and manage the damage. I said, great. So literally training all week privately with this kid, a verbal assert, just to get him to look at me and say, don't ever do that again. Just to get him to say that took 45 minutes of one-on-one, 100%. Don't ever do that again. Don't ever do that again. Don't ever do that again.
Yeah. So role playing these situations is a huge part of the training.
Yeah.
For both Bully Proof and for the women's empowerment.
Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
but literally I had to walk up to this kid, push him, have him turn around, walk right up to my face without blinking and deliver that line. And that's incredible amount of work on just that situation. Anyways, he goes back home, to make a story short, goes back home, and this is during the summer. So he goes back to the normal school year and the bully's there. And I talked to him before the first day of school. He's super nervous. He goes to school. Second day goes. I call him. I say, hey, how's school going? He says, well, Rener, actually the bully today did try to, he bothered my friend and he bothered me as well. And I told him to stop and he didn't. And then the teacher came and finally the teacher stepped in and it stopped the situation. So I didn't have to use my techniques or use anything. I said, Martin, listen. that's not the ideal outcome. Because if the teacher stopped it, that means you didn't stop it, which means he thinks he can get away with it when the teacher's not there. Yeah. I said, so here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow, you're going to go to school. He's going to do, the bully's name was Zach.
Yeah.
I said, he's going to do it again. But when he does it again, you handle the business yourself. Are you sure, Rener? I said, yeah, I'm sure. Call me when you're done. I said, and that's what I told him. I said, Martin, would you rather be made fun of for the rest of your life or engage once and get it over with? Engage once. I said, okay, call me when you're done. This is on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
On Wednesday after school, I get a phone call. I'm like, what's up, Martin? He says, hi, Rener. I said, how did school go today? Well, actually, the bully came up and he tried to practice a punching technique on me that he said he learned from his uncle who's in the FBI. I told him not to do it. He did it again. And then I used the power push technique that you taught me and I pushed him and he fell over. And then I hold him on the ground. I held him on the ground and I didn't let him get up. And he kept calling me crazy and telling me to get off of him. And I simply held him there. I said, Martin, did you punch the kid in the face? He says, no. I said, why not? He said, because if I would have punched him, then I would have became the bully. I said,
fantastic.
I said, then what? He said, well, all these people were watching. I said, did anybody step in? He said, no. I said, how many kids were watching? He said, about 10 or 15. I said, great. He says, yeah, and they'll probably tell the other kids, so everyone will find out. I said, perfect. I said, then what? Well, the teachers took us to the principal's office. They got me in trouble, but then my mom came and talked to them and said that because this kid has bullied me for 6 years, they shouldn't get me in trouble, so I didn't get in trouble. He got suspended for 2 weeks. No problem. I went back to school the next day.
Wow.
That's jiu-jitsu. In 1 week of training. Now, this kid's life will never be the same as it was.
Yeah, absolutely behind it. And we got to take a break.
No way.
All right. So, we've talked about where you guys have come from, how you're working together now as a couple, which is really cool. We've looked at the women's empowerment. We've looked at the bully proof. And, we could spend a whole hour going into each of those, and they certainly warrant that. And even then, we wouldn't have spent enough time because, the bully proof, one thing I want to say is it's such a big and prevalent, bullying is such a big and prevalent problem in our country right now that you look at, when you look at things like Columbine that can occur and things like that, at their roots are children that are walking around fearful and expressing it in unacceptable ways. And so there's so much we can do with that. And if any of these things are a problem in your life, go to the Gracie Jiu Jitsu Academy, look them up, and we can go from there. But one of the things is I was looking through and preparing for today, and I looked at where you've come, and it's fascinating to me because here you had your grandfather Rener Gracie, who created jiu-jitsu, or he modified Japanese jiu-jitsu, right, and made it prevalent for the street. Japanese jiu-jitsu came from samurai jiu-jitsu, correct? And then so you modified it for real-world use in today, and Rener Gracie did. And then Horian, the magic that he brought, his son, your father, came up with this concept with Art Davie. The two of them together came up with this concept, but it was really, you guys were doing the Gracie Challenge for years before the UFC ever existed. So you have the UFC, which has become the fastest, now has launched mixed martial arts, fastest growing sport in the world ever, probably. And your father was able to demonstrate the efficacy of jiu-jitsu against other types of arts, right, and was able to demonstrate, and Royce was able to demonstrate the ability of the smaller man to defend themselves against a bigger man, which I think is really the big point there. And here, you and your brother Huron, and now Eve, you've come together and you've really taken, you made the Gracie splash through the UFC, and now you've taken it in a brand new direction. And, here in the Next Frontier in the show, we look to show how life is changing, how it's never going to be the same. And what I'm interested in chatting about here in our last 15 minutes, I wish we had more time, but is, looking at how have you revolutionized the world of training and development for people through some of the things that you brought to the world now? You've got your Gracie University, so here you're able to transform people's lives any place in the world.
Crazy.
And that's you.
Crazy.
That's you. This is your contribution.
And this kind of came from the UFC literally overnight put jiu-jitsu in all serious martial artist households. I mean, everyone knew about what we were doing. The problem was the demand for quality jiu-jitsu instruction was far outweighed the availability of instructors. The Gracies were in Torrance,
right,
and the rest of the world was out there on their own watching videos, trying to connect the dots, and it wasn't going to work that way.
So you got a housewife in Iowa, there's nothing she can do.
Nothing back then. And what's crazy is that if you just think about, they call it the YouTube generation. So my whole life growing up, I thought my future was to do what my uncles did. Train, be tough, go in the octagon, fight other people, continue to prove jiu-jitsu. But when I became around, 21, 22, 23 years old, I realized that, the UFC had existed already for 10 years. So every martial artist accepted jiu-jitsu. Every serious martial artist practiced jiu-jitsu as part of their repertoire. But the rest of the world didn't have access to quality instruction. So as I got into my adulthood years there, ready to decide what my path would be, I thought, man, what if we could find a way to merge our techniques, technology, and the present day explosive demand for jiu-jitsu and teach this stuff to the world? That was the birth of GracieUniversity.com, a website which essentially is an online university, and seeing other institutions, higher level actual universities doing the online learning route.
I remember when you started it, yeah.
Yeah, and just seeing real universities, from Phoenix to Harvard, all these accredited universities have online branches now. So in my mind, I'm thinking, man, if these respected institutions are doing it, maybe we can do something amazing that would give anyone in the world with an internet connection access to all the information I learned my whole life. And if I could share everything I've ever learned with the world will be a better place. That's my belief. So all of a sudden, Hidon and I went into curriculum development mode. How can we organize jiu-jitsu linearly? Meaning not just a bunch of chokes and arm locks that someone would look at and be totally confused.
Right.
In order. Lesson number 1 is, good morning, everyone. First class of your life. Here's what you need to know. And then lesson 2, these are all video-based streaming curriculum lessons, very intricate. Lesson 2 would be built on the fact that they already know lesson 1, and we can add on to that. Lesson 3 builds on 1 and 2, and so on and so forth. And we convinced ourselves that we could essentially do that from white to black belt. Every move we ever learned, over 600 lessons with, 3 to 5 variations each, an hour or 2 each lesson, and create the most robust sports-based curriculum ever created. And we're well on our way, leading the pack. And we have a lot more curriculum to capture. But right now we have up to Blue Belt Stripe 2 available for the general public. So someone can start from 0 and have over 200 lessons to essentially follow and benefit from jiu-jitsu.
The challenge that people would have with that is, what is that really effective? How could somebody really learn the martial arts from a video?
Yeah, that's the question. And just to be very clear, the video is simply the visual, the source of the information. The same way, Chris, when you go to the Gracie Academy and you watch us teach a technique in a group class, right? You're watching us in person. And then you pair up with a partner, one of 60 guys in the room or girls, you pair up with each other and then you practice based on what you just watched. So essentially our thought process was, if we can teach 60 or 80 or 100 people, I can teach 100,000. Right? As long as they have good viewing of what I'm showing and they can press rewind and watch it again, as long as we answer all the perspective questions in the teaching itself, we can have amazing curriculum. So we did it. Now, you do need a training partner to actually develop muscle memory. So you would need to watch the lessons and then get on the mat in your garage and make it happen. And people went for it. Now we have Gracie Garages. That's the formal, informal name for an informal training center at someone's house. So you can apply for Gracie Garage status. Anyone can, for free.
And they call them garages because that's how your father started out here in Torrance,
I paid homage to my
right?
father's original Gracie Garage in Hermosa Beach. So we have hundreds and hundreds of Gracie Garages, hundreds of thousands of active members, and they literally let's say you had, mat space, a small matted area in your house.
Yeah.
You would be, Chris Howard, Gracie Garage. And then we would say, okay, let's train on Thursday night. So we would come, we would watch the lesson together, we practice together.
Yeah, so for somebody who doesn't have a school nearby, a certified training center nearby, they can look up on Gracie University and find someone with a Gracie Garage. And then they can follow the curriculum and then train together with this
There's no formal teacher there. We are their teachers, but they're learning from the curriculum. Now, here's the crazy part. when we launched this, we had great aspirations and huge hopes for what this could accomplish, but we did not have certainty that it would work.
Right. How could you?
You couldn't know, because it's never been done before.
Yeah.
Like any major technological advancement, you do it with a conviction, but we don't know. Well, guess what? He just showed up 3 weeks ago. A guy walks into the Gracie Academy. This is 5 years ago we launched.
Right.
And 5 years gives a lot of time for someone that, it's a good, it's a substantial amount of time training jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
Some guy walks in from Australia, sits down on the mat, and we say, hey, what's up? Where are you from? He's wearing a Gracie belt. And he says, yeah, well, I earned my blue belt through Gracie University, and I've been training 5 years watching your guys' videos in my north of Melbourne, 200 miles in Australia, in my Gracie garage with 8 or 10 buddies. We train every morning from 5:30 a.m. to 7 a.m., and we watch videos every night the night before to prepare for our morning lessons. Religiously, we do this for the last 5 years. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Can we spar? And I rolled with this guy and I sparred with the guy. Chris, he spoke the language. The guy knew the curriculum like you wouldn't, all the published lessons, he owned them 100%. This was the evidence I've been waiting for. And then I said, yo, spar with these other students over here, purple belts, brown belts, black belts. See how you do. Now, he got caught and submitted by these guys, but after rolling with them, they were all like, Rener, he feels as good or better than our regular blue belts here. He was amazing. The guy came in, he's a 43-year-old real estate broker in Australia, and this guy has never trained jiu-jitsu in a regular jiu-jitsu school in his life. He's the guy I've been waiting for. Now, we filmed his training. We filmed he spent a week at the academy. We filmed all of his training. It's on YouTube so anyone can see it.
Wow.
Yes.
So you're transferring the skills effectively online. How many students you have in that?
We just passed 100,000 in December. So we're at 104,000 Gracie University members in 196 countries.
Around the world.
Around the world.
And the thing that also makes Gracie University unique is that not only are they offering instruction, but then the students are able to upload their own videos to get feedback from instructors from the Gracie Academy. Because it's not enough. It's not enough just to learn it from, even though they're the best instructors in the world, of course, in my opinion.
And Chris's too.
Yes, exactly. But how do you know if you're getting it? If you're out there in the middle of nowhere, how do you know if, okay, am I doing this right? Or something doesn't feel right? How can I change this? They can upload videos themselves to where Gracie Academy instructors are reviewing their videos and giving them exact feedback down to the exact time code of their videos.
And that is what separated us from the pack immediately.
Right. Yeah.
And it's also what got the most scrutiny for us. People like, you can't review someone through video. Trust me, I can watch you right in this room right here for spar for 5 minutes and I'll tell you exactly where you should be. And the same is true for me watching you on a video or in the UFC in an octagon. I know how good someone is on jiu-jitsu just by watching it.
Now,
so
obviously,
unbelievable.
for the belt testing, that, especially as the higher belts come along, that's something that they have to do.
They go to a school. So you could essentially learn from home, and then after 2 years of training, say, I'm going to go to California, or I'm going to go to Singapore or South Africa.
Like this guy from Melbourne that came over.
Yeah, he could have went to a closer certified training center, but in his mind, he wanted to go to the Mecca. So he came all the way here. But the point is, you can go to any local CTC and just do the belt test. Because the reality is, once you have a standard.
So it's a blended system.
Yes. Yeah. Once you have a standard, whether you're a student who trains in-house 24/7 at the regular academy, or whether you learn from home, we don't care where you get the information. We care that you're putting in the time and the passion and then learn the reflexes. So if you pass the test, I don't care where you learned it.
Right.
If you have the reflex and you can defend yourself in a street fight, here's your blue belt. You deserve it.
So the world is transforming. The world is transforming. And you're able to deliver this education everywhere. Have you gotten the Bulletproof and the Women's Empowerment?
All of it's online. GracieUniversity.com.
So people can go through that. So if somebody's having a problem with their child's having a problem in school, they can go online and they can learn it wherever they are in the world.
Anyone can learn anywhere in the world. All three programs are online, and you log on, and the first several lessons for each program are free. So you'll literally log on today, GracieUniversity.com. Takes 30 seconds to create a free student profile, and instantly your library will be populated with Gracie Combatives, Beginner, Lesson 1, 2, 3, Bullyproof, Parent Preparation Course, free, Bullyproof.
So the parent can actually go through it with their child. A father could go through it with their son.
That's what it was designed for, bro.
See, I remember coming into the academy and Mel Gibson walks in with this. I'm walking in there to do a private lesson with your dad, and he's like, "Did you know who that was?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "That's Mel Gibson," and then he would just come in with his son. But that's not uncommon to have
together
fathers to come in with sons so that could be your training partner, and you could help your son.
Not only that, but imagine the bond. That you create. We had it with our dad our whole lives. It's totally different than, "Hi, son, how are you? Okay, let's do your homework. Okay, good night, son. Okay, tomorrow morning, let's take you to school." It's different when you get down, you spend 15 minutes at home in the living room connecting on a physical level. There's nothing better.
Reminds me of the movie 300 where the father's teaching the son martial arts.
Yeah.
Baby Spartans, I'm telling you.
Baby Spartans. That's got to be one of the names of the team in there. So we're coming to the top of the hour. We have to call it quits here. But once again, you have so many free ways for people to get the resources they need to change their lives. You can come down to the Academy in Torrance at any time, and your free classes.
Anytime. Not only the Academy, but we have over 100 certified training centers around the world, all of which will give you 10 days. Anyone who's listening, 10 days, free trial. You don't pay a penny. And you 100% satisfaction guarantee. Just tell them Chris Howard and Henner sent you, and they'll take care of you 100%. And those who are too scared or uncertain or fearful about going into a school, guess what? Go to gracieuniversity.com, log on, it's free. Watch the first 3 lessons. If they aren't the most easy, informative, empowering, enjoyable, entertaining video lessons you've ever seen in your entire life, I'll let you choke me for free.
So, if you're a father, if you're a parent and you got a child that's having a problem, or if you're, if you want to get this education, reach out there. There's got lots of those free resources. So, guys, thank you so much. We could have done in hours upon hours upon hours, but we'll have to call it quits for today. Until the next time, yeah?
Thank you so much.
Next time
Huge
for
honor.
sure.
Always great to see you, especially in a choke-free setting, and we can't wait to be back.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks, Chris.
We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, love deeply, shine brightly, make every day an extraordinary adventure.